Hello, I'm Alex Brown, and I'd like to introduce you to the Bare Deck Diaphragm design tool. This tool quickly and dynamically generates diaphragm capacity tables for your specific deck scenario. It gives you full control over the deck, supports, side laps, and spans. So let's jump in. So starting at the top here, you can see all of these tabs going across here from left to right. We're going to spend all of our time in this summary tab because that's where our main inputs and outputs are going to be. But if you want to kind of take a peek under the hood and see what all the detailed calculations are, that's going to be available in these various tabs. So detailed diaphragm calc, concrete strength, concrete tension, concrete shear, and then for reference, the perpendicular connection patterns, just images of what those are, and then the technical revisions to the tool itself. There's this awesome print button here, which is going to generate a really clean PDF of the final outputs of the tables. So as you go through and kind of dial it in for your specific scenario, and you can get the spans and the increments that you need for your project. When you're all done, you can go ahead and print a copy for later reference. And then moving into the drop downs themselves here, this first category for deck selection, it's really important to work from top to bottom because as you change options here, it's going to wipe out the stuff below it. And that's all fine. The tool is working as intended. It's really just to make sure that you don't get invalid inputs or combinations of information. If I were to change from roof deck to one of our floor deck options, a non-composite or composite deck with no concrete fill, so just the bare deck, obviously B deck would not fit within those categories. So just to safety, it's going to wipe that out and you do have to make a new selection. We'll leave these alone for now, but you can change the gauge, the grade, the number of spans. All of those are available for playing with and fine-tuning. For the support connections, this really gets at how the deck is laying on the system and it's being supported. First is this end condition, whether the deck is butted, lapped, or a combination. Deck to support connection type. I want to spend a second here because you can see there's a lot of different options from different manufacturers, power actuated fasteners, screws, and even welds. And all of this was built into the tool to make it as versatile as possible and as applicable to what you're really specifying, what the options are that you can call out on your contract drawings. So all of these are provided for your convenience, even though Vulcraft may not supply all of this material directly. The support member, the thickness, and the grade, all of that can be dialed in as well. You can see the different options available here. Bearing length can be punched in, and the connection pattern for the deck, that can be specified as well. So because this is B36, that 36 is the width of the sheet itself, 36 inches wide. All of these are going to be 36 inches wide, and then the number of connections within that width. And if you aren't familiar with the connection patterns, what they may look like, all of that is shown here in the perpendicular connection patterns tab. You can see we've got images just kind of showing what that actually looks like. Next is the side lap connections. So again, multiple options, different screws, welds, and some other manufacturer options. And then the net uplift for the project can be specified as well. That's going to affect some of the wind shear strength capacity. And the last few options here really get at how the information is displayed within the table itself. So table generated based on either side lap connections per span or side lap connection spacing in inches. And you can see that change there. And then the table generator section right at the bottom here, that's just what value are we starting the spans at, and then how much is it incrementing by. So you can get this pretty dialed in to the inch if desired. And then the outputs themselves, just kind of walking through the different tables here, you can see it starts with the wind diaphragm shear strength. So that's going to be the capacity for the wind diaphragm, average connection spacing to supports at parallel cords and collectors. If your system is using those, this is the number of connections needed to transfer that load down. G prime, the stiffness of the diaphragm, all of that is shown here, the values. And then the seismic diaphragm and average connection spacing for the seismic is shown in these bottom two ones. So let's go ahead and start playing with some of these inputs a little bit. So Imperial, ASD, roof deck, we'll leave all of that alone for now. And for the B deck, we'll just change from our standard B deck to a punch lock B deck, the PLB36. And you can see that changes a lot of the inputs here. It does require having to punch all that information again just to make sure that it's accurate for my scenario. We'll go with 22 gauge. For the grade, we'll go 80, which is pretty widely available for PLB 22 gauge. We can lap PLB pretty easily at this gauge, and that's going to help with the shear stiffness of the system. And we'll just throw some 3/4 inch arc spot welds in there. Supports we'll leave alone. Connection pattern, we'll just go with 36/4 for both end and interior. And then you can see still no values generated here. We need one more input, the side lap connection type. And because it's our punch lock deck, it's only going to allow the punch lock 2 connection type. And with that final input, now we've got all of these tables. They're populated with valid information all the way to the bottom here. Really good stuff being shown here. And then the last thing I want to bring up, if let's say I had a 6'9" span that I need to get information for. Currently that's not shown with these default values. I've got 6'6" and I've got 7 foot. I can pretty easily just alter these values so that I get right on with 6'9". I don't have to guess or interpolate between other options like I would in the old printed literature. I can just get this spot on exactly with what the span I have is. And that's the Bare Deck Diaphragm design tool. It's a fantastic tool that quickly does what would take a long time to do by hand. You can fine-tune everything from the deck type, gauge, and grade to the support connections and details to the spans of the tables themselves. And with that, happy specifying.